Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video. Today you join me in this 2022 Ford Kuga. This is the plug-in hybrid electric version with the 2.5 litre Duratec petrol engine. Prices for these start from around £26,000 and that will get you an entry-level Z-Tech model which comes with a 1.5 litre EcoBoost engine in either petrol or diesel format. You can get a 6-speed manual or an 8-speed auto, either 150 or 120 horsepower in those models, and front-wheel drive. You can also step up and you can get a 2 litre diesel which is available with 4-wheel drive, which is part-time 4-wheel drive, and that model is a 190 horsepower mild hybrid diesel. You can then step up to the top of the range models, which are these, the 2.5 litre Duratec petrols. You can either get this 225 horsepower plug-in hybrid, or you can get 190 horsepower self-charging hybrid. Both come with a CVT transmission. So as for trims, you've got the Z-Tech model at the baseline at £26,000, and then you can step up to titanium for some extra features such as the full digital driver's display and full LED lights. That will cost you about 28 grand. Move up to ST Line or ST Line X for between 30 and 32, which include things like the styling pack. The ST Line X includes the panoramic roof, heated steering wheel, heated rear seats, and these larger 19-inch wheels, which are the largest you can get, I believe. So the one I'm sitting in today is the one with all the trimmings. So this one will run just under £41,000, and this is the ST Line X with the 225 horsepower. So this is obviously the new model, which has the more Focus light front end, or almost a bit like the Ford Puma actually. So I do think it looks a bit soft at the front. It looks like almost like a Ford Puma with a massive Kim Kardashian butt stuck on the back. Like it doesn't quite add up. I actually saw an older generation Kuga in a car park the other day, and I'll put a clip of it in here now to kind of give you a comparison of what the front end looks like. I don't know, I'm not too convinced about the front end personally, because I think it just seems a little bit tame for this size of car, but some people will really like that because they don't want anything too large and aggressive. So I totally understand the market for it. You've got the LED headlights on this model. You get a different grille depending on which model you go for as well, and this chrome blue metallic paint just really pops in the sun. It's a premium paint that's an additional cost, but I think it's well worth it. I think also the red looks absolutely fantastic. I think that's probably the one I go for, and I don't often like red cars, but the Ford red just looks incredible. Or the dark metallic grey that they do. I see it on Fiestas all the time, and in the right sunlight it just looks amazing. Ford really know how to make a premium metallic colour. Now, first of all, I want to talk about that drivetrain because it's quite interesting. It's not like what I've experienced in other plug-in hybrid vehicles. Now, you've got to understand that having a plug-in hybrid, there are some certain use case scenarios for it. If you're the sort of person who potters around town quite a lot, you know, you're using the hybrid drive quite a lot, or you're using the pure electric quite a lot, then it's absolutely ideal. If you're just going around town, dropping the kids off to school, getting your shopping, all that kind of thing, then it's kind of perfect for that sort of thing. So in this car, you've got just over 35 miles of electric range, which is really class leading for a plug-in hybrid, and it means that you do kind of have that flexibility to use it round town. If you keep it plugged in overnight, then you can make the most of the electric drive almost all of the time, and then you'll start hitting those crazy combined MPG figures when you're doing the hybrid drive as well, when the engine kicks in for that extra grunt, or whether you're using it when the electric has just started to run out. You know, you can see those sort of 200 to 300 MPG figures that people talk about with these cars. In terms of what I've actually been averaging, I've been averaging around 75 to 80 mile per gallon with mixed driving with this car, keeping it topped up. Now, a lot of people in the UK won't have the facilities to charge these up overnight, and it'll take about 6 hours on a domestic plug to charge, or if you've got a fast charger, then it will take about 3.5 hours. But obviously that's not practical if you're out and about, you want to charge this on a long journey. It's not going to be practical to sit in a station for 3.5 hours or whatever it takes to get this thing juiced up. So it's not like an EV in that regard. So if you're doing loads and loads of long distance driving, then plug-in hybrids still don't particularly make sense, and I'm going to do another separate video on that shortly. But if you're using this mainly for round town use and then the occasional trip or commute, then that's when you're really going to start to benefit. Because if you do less than 35 miles a day and you've got somewhere like a driveway that you can plug this in overnight, then that means you're going to be pretty much using the EV all of the time, but you've got that petrol backup, not only for the extra power, but also the peace of mind. You've got the peace of mind that if you do run out of juice, you can still just pop a bit of petrol in it and you'll still get to the end of your destination. So for those longer trips, even though it's not the most fuel efficient thing, you're going to reduce that range anxiety considerably. Now, on the petrol alone, you can actually change this car to go to just the petrol mode. So there is a button down here, which I'm so grateful for. I think Ford has done a fantastic job of this, to get this button down here, because a lot of these modern cars, you have to faff about through the infotainment to change the EV driving modes. And this, there is just one button and it cycles through it on the dash, which I absolutely love. So you can put it in an all petrol mode, which will then charge the battery, but it's not the most efficient way of doing things. And using just the petrol engine, of course, you lose a lot of the power of that electric motor, so it feels a bit more sluggish, and you're going to end up with quite poor economy. So I averaged around 30 mile per gallon on just the petrol motor alone. So it really goes to show you do need to keep this thing plugged in to actually take advantage of those MPG figures. It will work on full electric up to 85 mile an hour, but of course, if you run out of juice, then you're going to be relying on the petrol motor. Now, talking of this drivetrain, the 2.5 litre Duratec motor that they've put in this is actually really good, mated to the CVT. I heard CVT and I shuddered, because I just thought of those horrible nights out when you get in a Prius, you're on your way home, you're feeling a bit sick in the back of the car, and you've just got the car screaming away at the top of its lungs as if it's fighting for its life. And you don't really experience that in this, because it's a much larger engine than its rivals. You do find that it's quite smooth, and when it kicks in, you don't really notice it at all. The only time that I've really noticed the car screaming is when you're on the motorway and you really put your foot down, because then the engine's working quite hard. So I came off it quite heavy there, and you heard the engine kick right in as I was under full load. Of course, that's that CVT gearbox that's holding those revs really high. But as I say, the benefit of that is, rather than what some of the rivals are doing, so say the Kuga PHEV that I had recently, that was a 1.5 turbo mated to a similar electric motor. And what you found in that is that it sounds really rough all the time, because it's really pushed to the limits, that petrol motor, and it's producing quite a small amount of the overall power. So, you know, it sounds a bit annoying. And also, when you're going through the gears, you can feel those gear changes, even though they use DSG gearboxes. So actually, it kind of makes sense to me now. When I saw 2.5 litres hybrid CVT on paper, I thought, what were they thinking? But actually, I think this has been really well thought out. I'm really pleased with how it feels when you're pottering around, and the only time that I've felt that it sounds strained and annoying or feels sluggish is when you're at sort of 60, 70 mile an hour and you put your foot down. And for most people, that's not really going to make much difference with the day-to-day. Around town, it makes for a fantastic combination between the electric drive, which of course you get that torque off the line, you get the silent operation away from lights, and then you get the engine kicking in when necessary. You get fantastic economy around town, and I think that the bigger engine really contributes to the overall smoothness of the experience. When it comes to the handling of the drivetrain, of course it's a bigger car, you're going to experience some body roll, but actually it feels relatively planted. I'm quite happy with the combination of how they've got it set up. It doesn't feel too firm, it doesn't feel too soft, it feels about right for what it is, and the steering's really good too. It knows exactly where it's going. The one thing is, it takes a little bit of getting used to, because it feels like it's really keen to get back to centre. So what you'll find is, you're kind of like, when you go over a pothole or something, the steering kind of wobbles around as if it's trying to keep you straight, which can be a bit disconcerting at first, but actually it's quite good. And it's probably just some electrical interference. It has a really good lane keep assist, and well, it's not even lane keep assist, it's lane steer assist. When you're using the adaptive cruise control on the motorway, you've actually got the option of putting the car into like an autonomous driving mode, which will keep you in lane as long as you've got the hands on the steering wheel. So it will steer for you. And not only can it do that, but it can also save you if you try and change lanes and it thinks you're going to hit something. So the blind spot monitoring lights in the mirror will come on if it detects something in your blind spot, and then the car will make an audible beep and then alert you to say that there's something there, you shouldn't be switching lanes. And then if you start to steer, it will then steer back for you, so that you don't have to worry about hitting the car that's in the other lane. So it's actually a great safety feature. Visibility is pretty good as well. You're quite high up. I can get quite a nice seating position in here. The only thing is, the pillar right at the very back is quite chunky, so you might find that kind of impairs visibility a little bit. But so let's talk about this interior then. It's pretty much copy pasted from the Ford Focus, just inflated a little bit bigger. And I don't think that's a problem at all. I think it's a very functional interior. I think the materials are all very good. I particularly like this steering wheel, which feels really plush. It's got a nice squidge to it, looks really nice. All the buttons are pretty much where you'd expect them to be. Nothing too fancy, but functional and feels really nice. And that's what you want, because it's a tactile thing. Obviously, day to day, you're going to be touching the steering wheel all the time. You want it to be nice. And it's not too chunky. It's not like a BMW chunky, but it's not awfully thin either, so I think it's just right. The infotainment system is good. In these higher end models, you get this large digital cluster, which does change depending on what mode you're in and has all the useful information. I found it's really easy to use and pretty clear. There are some cars I get in, they're a bit fiddly, or the animations are really laggy, but actually the animations on this screen are really, really good. They're really smooth, so I've got no complaints there at all. In terms of the main screen though, it's an 8-inch screen with the latest full Sync 3 infotainment software on, and it's functional. It doesn't look particularly wonderful, like in terms of the software, like it's nothing special, but it gets the job done, and most people will be using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto for the most part anyway, and you've got USB and wireless charging and that kind of thing. So it's not the end of the world. I just would have liked to see a larger screen in the more expensive models. Obviously, this particular car is just over 40 grand, and most of the rivals now have much larger screens, some even almost double the size. So yeah, it just seems a bit of a cop-out to have this in all of the models, right the way down from the 26 grand Z-Tech all the way up to, you know, the 42 grand top of the range model, to have the same screen. I don't know, I just would have liked to seen a larger one in the more expensive models. But overall, can't complain at all. The system is really nice to use, it's really responsive, there's no lag like you experience in some of the Volkswagen Audi Group stuff of late, so I'm really happy with how that feels. The Ford stuff always just feels, even though it's not like really high-end materials, it still feels nice. All the touch points that you actually need to use feel good. My only complaint about materials in here really are down low, there's some horrible scratchy plastics, which is a bit of a shame in a car at this price point. I'm really, really grateful for the physical climate controls, and in this, of course, you've got the Ford quick clear windscreen, you've got the heated steering wheel, you've got heated seats front and rear, and all of it is available by these dual zone climate controls down here, all physical buttons, all fairly easy to use. I think the screens look a bit naff because they're just like stuck on. They look like calculator screens that have just been salvaged. They're not like kind of built into the design of the dial like in some other cars, but it's not the end of the world. They're functional, it gets the job done, and I'm really grateful for all of these controls being here in the right place and not having to faff about in some menu to see them. So well done, Ford. That is a massive, massive plus from me. In terms of practicality in here, as I say, driving position really good. I would have liked to be able to sit this high and have a place for my elbows. I feel a bit like I have to kind of sit a lot lower to rest my arms properly, but that's just me. Seats are really good. They're kind of a nice level between plush and sporty. They look really good. They've got this kind of suede material in the middle. It's not quite Alcantara, but it looks like it. And then you've got a bit of leather as well. Nice in the back, plenty of room. I can sit comfortably behind myself at 6 foot with loads and loads of knee room and headroom, and I can stretch my legs out a reasonable amount, so it'd be really nice for long journeys, even for adults. You've also got the Isofix Points. There's loads of Isofix Points. They've not got covers on, which I think looks a bit unattractive, but obviously it means there's no pesky covers to lose. I would have just liked to see some fold away ones, like flip down ones like you see in the Kias. The pan roof definitely adds to the airy feel in here as well, and it's definitely a great option, I think. Rear cargo space is not the best in class, I must say that, so it's not going to beat all of its rivals, but I do think that even if you go for something like a Kia Sportage or you know, like a Seat Ateca or something like that, you're going to have a little bit more space and it's going to be a little bit kind of more futuristic inside, but you might miss out on some of the driving dynamics of this car, so that's something to keep in mind. But there is no load lip in the boot. It's an electric tailgate. Also, the seats fold completely flat, so it does extend that space in a very practical way, so that's always good to see. You also have in this model a heads-up display, which actually is really good. It shows all of the vital information you need, like navigation, speed. It also goes red if you're too close to the car in front on the motorway. It's got traffic sign recognition, so you can instantly see when things change. Yeah, really good. It means that you don't have to necessarily look at all these other displays. The one in front of me is very good. It's really easy to use. I hopped in, I knew exactly how to use it. There was no fiddling about at all. The downside of it is that you can't get the map on there, which is a bit disappointing. Being a full screen, you would have thought the software would allow you to get the navigation on there. It doesn't, but you still get it on the heads-up display, and you also get it on the main display as well. And of course, you can use CarPlay, which wouldn't appear on that screen anyway, so it is whatever. I don't particularly mind that, but it's just something to point out. So besides your normal EV modes and the self-charging mode, and also your different modes such as sport, there's also terrain modes and that kind of thing which you can cycle through that change the throttle response and the steering and that kind of thing. There is also a mode that's on the gear selector down here, which is this rotary L on the selector. So what that does is it basically puts the car into almost like a 1 foot operation mode, a bit like a traditional EV, where it pretty much uses auto brake for braking regen when you come off the accelerator. So it's really good if you're sitting in traffic and it's, you know, you're not having to come to a full stop. You can press that mode and you can use just 1 foot pretty much to go through that traffic, which I think is really good. The only downside to it is you can't come to a full stop with it like you can in an actual EV, so you will have to use the brake. But if you're just rolling along in slow traffic, it's really good to just be able to use the 1 foot, and then it's automatically making the best of that braking regeneration to charge the battery a little bit as well. Overall, I think that the Ford is a great option because although you don't get as much of the futuristic stuff in here in terms of the larger screens and that kind of thing, it is all simple to use. Everything's where you expect it to be. All of the tactile stuff feels really nice, like, you know, stuff that you have to touch every day all feels great. And also I really like the physical climate controls and the physical button to change EV and drive modes. It's really simple to use. It's right there. You just have to press one button. There's no faffing about in infotainment. So this is a great example from Ford of where less is more. I do think that you'll get a slightly more futuristic experience in a Kia Sportage. I've got one of those on the channel next week, so we'll check one of those out. And I also think potentially that you'd have a bit more fun if you went for a Coupe or a Tekka in this price range. But let's be honest, that's a completely different car. If you're buying with your head, this is an option for you because you've got that economy. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to Ford UK for sending me out the vehicle. I've got some more cars from them coming soon, hopefully now. And also, as I say, I've got the Kia Sportage, the Coupe or Tekka coming over the next couple of weeks, so we can check out some of this car's main rivals. Overall, I think the Ford is a great choice because it does a bit of everything and it does most of it really well. It's not the most upmarket place to sit, but at the end of the day, everything you touch and use feels great, especially when you're on the road. Feels like a nice, safe place to be, and it's really comfortable for long distances. So there's one to choose for everyone. You know, right the way down from the 26 grand Z-Tech model, right the way up to this 40 grand ST Line X with the plug-in hybrid. You can have a diesel, you can have a petrol, you can have a mild hybrid, you can have a full hybrid, you can have a plug-in hybrid. Whatever you want, you can have in the Kuga. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.